My name is Don, and I'm an alcoholic. The 12-step programs talk a lot about denial. And usually it's talked about in the context of drinking. I don't admit that I have a problem with alcohol or whatever. But that's not really the intent of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. When they talk about denial, Bill Wilson was talking about refusing to be aware, refusing to see ourselves, to see our circumstances, to see our histories, to see what compulsions work in our lives even though we've stopped drinking. And that's what the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th steps are all about, okay, is taking a fearless and thorough moral inventory, looking inside ourselves. A lot of people seem to get dry, stop drinking, and stop there. Others will work through the steps, but kind of at a low level. They'll just deal with the obvious. But I think the intent of the 12-step programs, all of them, is to take that further and to root out the things that made us drunks or addicts or whatever to begin with, and to deal with those. And I think that's necessary to do. My own sobriety has progressed in stages. There'll be things I'm willing to see, willing to accept, willing to work on, take some action on, but others I won't. I first heard about Ibogaine from a friend of mine who's not an alcoholic, but was a very desperate person at the time. He's a young man who experienced a lot of abuse as a child. He had a father who was a drunk and a brutal one. He spent a lot of his childhood basically locked in the cellar, kind of ignored by his family. He was filled with fear and filled with rage, and he had no outlet. He was stuck. And he had a friend who told him about Ibogaine. Ibogaine, I'm sure everybody knows, is mostly thought of as a drug to help people get off opiates, heroin or whatever. But it does other things. And maybe part of what it does to help people get off opiates is what it does for those of us who are not currently addicted to a substance, but are stuck. Okay? Anyway, my friend, not having done a hell of a lot of research, decided to try this. He went to another place here in Mexico and came back a changed person. Now, he is a guy who got a lot of euphoria out of the experience, and it carried him for 6 months. He was up for the first time since I'd known him. And the chief benefit of the drug, from my point of view in his case, is that he became open to seeing things he had refused to see, and he became open to working on problems that he carried around with him. He wasn't before. He was locked up. It has been much more subtle than I thought, okay? Watching my friend Scott, it was such a dramatic experience that I expected a much higher impact from the drug. And after having come out of the drug experience itself, I thought maybe it was a failure because I did not have the kind of reaction he had. Mm-hmm. Well, people say all the time, everybody has their own reaction. And it turns out that mine is not atypical, and it's much more subtle. I'm 8 days, I think, now, since I took the drug. And each day, some new things have emerged, some new insights about myself and my personal history and my feelings and my behaviors. And my perspective has shifted a little bit each day. And I've seen things that I see all the time, but from a little bit different place. Barry and I have been talking a bit about that, and he suspects the reason that I didn't have as intense an experience as my friend, or as some people who do this, is that I'm starting in a very different place. Okay? 27 years of AA, 7 years of adult children of alcoholics meetings, 22 years of therapy since I quit drinking and using, a lot of spiritual work, I'm not starting in a place of complete ignorance that a lot of people do start in. I mean, a lot of the effect that some of them get is seeing things for the first time that they hadn't even imagined about themselves. Well, I've done a lot of archaeology, as I say, and I know a lot about my childhood. The success of this kind of an experience depends largely on the follow-up one does, okay? You can have the experience and the whole thing will dissipate if you don't work with what you've learned, if you don't take advantage of the opportunity that you've been provided. When I get back to California, which is where I live, I'm going to jump into therapy with one therapist who has had personal experience with Ibogaine and also a lot of experience with addiction. And I am hoping that we will make some kinds of progress that I haven't been able to make in therapy in the past. I made a little list before I came down here, 5 or 6 things that I'd really like some help with. And perhaps I will get help with all of them. I know I'm getting help with some of them. Part of the recovery process for me is increasing awareness. I lost track of my feelings. I walled them off, okay? And it has been a very difficult process for me to dredge up, to open the doors to feelings I already had. I mean, the feelings are there, they run my life, but they do it invisibly as long as I refuse to be in conscious contact with them. AA helps with that, therapy helps with that, and I think Ibogaine is going to wind up helping with that. But we'll see, you know, I'm not the poster child for Ibogaine. I'm new at this. I don't know what people with years of experience know, but so far so good.